Good morning, everyone. This is Tim Harris with the Harris Real Estate University, and this is the Harris Real Estate University free Friday Superstar interview. Now, what is the Superstar interview? For those of you who might be listening to this for the first time live or in replay, it's Harris Real Estate University's opportunity to give back to the real estate community, obviously starting with our Harris Real Estate University students. And so every Friday what we do is we interview a realtor superstar, someone who's really performing at a very high level in this marketplace, maybe because of this marketplace. In other words, this is someone who's doing extremely well because of the fact that we're in what some people label as a distressed market. Or we'll interview a famous author, someone who's coming out with a book, an economist, which I always find those interviews kind of interesting because it's so far outside of the normal wheelhouse for the real estate industry. And then we'll interview bank executives, people from National Association of Realtors. All the past Superstar interviews are available for you to listen to at any time if you go to realestateinsidernews.com and just click on the Superstar Interviews tab at the top. So today's Superstar is somebody who I think all of you are really thoroughly going to enjoy. And I have to say, the reason I'm really looking forward to this interview, aside from the fact that we really love Kim here at Harris Real Estate University, and Julie talks about her a lot off her graduate coaching calls, but the reason is because she has got some very practical information for you, and she's going to tell you exactly how to follow in her footsteps. So I have a theory. And then maybe not even the word might not even be theory, but that every single realtor in the country should be doing BPOs every single day. My theory, my dream, if you will, the vision is that every single day, every single realtor wakes up in the morning, does enough BPOs to cover their personal overhead for the day. That's the idea. That's the goal. What do you think? Is that reasonable? How much better would you feel if you had consistent cash flow every single day, every single week, every single month, and then the money you made from house sales, from working with buyers and sellers, went to other things, paying off debt, going on vacation? When was the last time you went on vacation? Maybe donating the money, maybe being able to work less so you can spend more time with the things that you like other than selling real estate. So keep all those thoughts in mind as I introduce today's guest, Kim Minehart. Kim, are you there?
I'm here. Hey, Tim.
All right, great, Kim. I really appreciate you doing this interview today. And like I said, Julie does rave about you off the calls. And I'd say the biggest reason is because when she talks with you, you don't have the normal stress in your voice from your real estate business as virtually everybody else. I'm not saying that to be flip. I'm being honest with you because you don't necessarily have the same cash flow woes that so many other realtors do. I mean, isn't that what short sales, listen to me. Isn't that what BPOs have brought to your business and to your life, consistency financially?
Definitely. Absolutely.
So you don't just do BPOs. You also list and sell real estate. So let's get started on the right foot. Where do you list and sell real estate? How can they send you business if they'd like to?
We're in Central Florida, right outside of Orlando, the northwest suburbs. But, anywhere in Central Florida, our office is in Longwood. Orlando, obviously, is our market. So.
Okay, so Orlando on a whole. And so what's going on in Orlando? Give us a snapshot of what that market's like right now. You know it because you do so many BPOs. You know
Orlando has one of the highest vacancy rates in the country right now, and very high short sale and foreclosure rates, although foreclosures, we've had a little bit of a lull. There's been some legal things going on in the last probably 12 months, which has been all over the news. That's held up some of the foreclosures. So lots of short sales and REO businesses, most of the business right now.
So describe your spokes. And first of all, if you don't mind explaining to maybe first-time listeners or people that aren't familiar with what that term means at Harris Real Estate University, describe your spokes, the spokes of your business.
Well, obviously, BPOs. We also do REOs, short sales, and work with buyers. Okay,
so a spoke, for those of you who are listening for the first time, is essentially a source of business. That's all it is, nothing more complicated than that. Too often, realtors will have one or two spoke businesses, centers of influence, past clients, or maybe the more traditional one would be calling FSBOs and expireds. And the problem with those spokes is that they don't always produce consistent results. And so that's the reason that we suggest in a well-balanced real estate practice, you should have at least 5, ideally 7 different spokes. And if you think about a bicycle wheel, the more spokes it has, the stronger it's going to be. Again, we've seen, certainly since the real abrupt stop or the real abrupt slowdown to real estate sales in '07, we've seen spokes fail. We've seen realtors that have tried too long to hang on to the old ways of doing business. Kim, were you always doing BPOs, or how did you come about switching to, or I would say primarily focusing on BPOs?
No, well, I've only been a realtor since 2005. So my first couple years was just, listing and selling homes. And what happened was I had a short sale listing, and somebody did a BPO on my listing, and I had never heard of one before. I didn't know what it was. So he kind of gave me a little brief description of what he did, and I just started researching it a little bit and signed up with a couple of companies just as a fluke, not really even thinking I'd get anything out of it. And within a week, I had an order, and I was like, wow. And I actually still work for that company. And so it just kind of evolved, and I couldn't believe that I could make money doing something that I do anyways. And
for free.
Yeah. I mean, go into neighborhoods and preview property, and it gave me the opportunity to get into some neighborhoods that I normally didn't before, and become a real pricing expert. So that was that started probably, I think I started the end of 2006, and it just kind of was a snowball effect. I started making like maybe $1,000 a month, and then it went to like, wow, I'm making $4,000 a month, and it just kept growing. So it was silly for me to give that up. I just felt like it was being handed to me. It was that's how I feel about it. So that's what happened. And then my husband also lost his job in 2009. So it was just, easy. It was like, well, why go look anywhere else? Just work with me. I mean, the money's coming. It's and that's what we do.
Well, how much of your business right now, maybe I should say how much of your overall income is BPOs?
Right now, year to date, it's 76%.
Okay, good. You track it. Very good. So do you project that to continue on that same track with 3/4 of your income coming from BPOs?
Well, it probably will this year, but I would like to, our goal is to obviously build our sales level a little higher. So, but I'll tell you, it's gotten to the point where I have companies contacting me to sign up with them. So I foresee it being like that for the next couple of years.
All right. So we're going to get into the brass tacks, the real numbers now, and then we're going to get into the process end of things, because we need to really kind of set the stage here that you're the real deal. Kim, you know as well as I do, there's a lot of realtors out there that take like 2 weeks to do one BPO, let alone the volume that you're doing. So let's let them know what you're doing, let them know how long it took for you to get to that level, and then let's share with them some secrets and some tips on how they can replicate what you're doing in their own markets. Make sense?
Okay, sure.
All right, so how many BPOs are you typically doing per day now?
Well, it fluctuates from probably on a slow day, it could be 5. On a busy day, it could be 20.
Okay. And how many, so on average per month last year in 2010, how many were you doing? How many did you do?
Per month, we averaged 200 a month. 200,
you said?
Yes.
200. So you did about 2,400 BPOs last year?
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you who are whipping out your calculators, it would be 2,400 times roughly $4,500, correct?
Yeah.
Is that what you're getting paid per BPO?
Yeah. Sometimes it's more. If they're interiors, they pay a little bit more. We did 2,502 BPOs last year.
Approximately. Good. All right, 2,502 BPOs in 2010. All right, so here's the fun part. How do those checks arrive? That's a lot of 2,502 checks, Kim. That's a lot to keep track of. Tell me how those arrive.
Well, it's not always individuals. A lot of the companies, I might, do, a bulk amount for, so they might just send one. For me, they go to my broker because in the state of Florida, you have to be paid from your broker. So he gets the fun task of taking care of all of that for me and then calling me when I have a check. So that's how it's done here. In some states, that's not the issue. It just depends on the state.
Right, agents get paid directly. It depends on the state. That's a really good point. So, how do you manage getting that many done? So, let's assume that it's a day where it's a moderate day for you. It's not 5, it's not 20. Let's say you have to do 10 BPOs. Could you describe your whole system from the point where they show up? And I know a lot of you are going to ask questions about auto accept software, and you're going to you're going to ask questions about specific systems she's using and how many, who she's got working with her and who does what. And we're going to get all of that in a second. But I guess really what really is important at this point is all of you take a little mental breath right here, everyone listening, and you realize that Kim is earning over $100,000 a year just from BPOs. Now, the average realtor, not even earning half that per year. They could be just doing BPOs. You don't have to do BPOs in the volume that Kim's doing. If you can't imagine or if you don't want to be doing that level of business from BPOs, that's fine. Start with the idea that you're going to do enough BPOs every single day just to cover your personal overhead. That's what really we want. One of the biggest things we want you to take away from the Superstar interview, that you can replicate what she's doing and get yourself that sense of security that you probably have been longing for ever since you got your real estate license, because security, the sense of financial security in this market selling real estate, is not easy to come by. So let's describe to me your typical day if you had to do 20 BPOs.
Well, depending on if my assistant's working or not, typically what happens is when I get an order in, besides accepting it right away, the first thing I do is I put the address in. I use Streets and Trips by Microsoft. And I just put the address in. So throughout the day before I'm going to do the BPOs, I'm plopping addresses in all day of the orders I get in. So by the end of the day, I know what the next day needs to look like, and then determine if I need extra assistance besides my partner to help with those. So if we're on average doing 10, most of the time, my partner is my husband too. It's just him and I doing them. So typically we like to start them early in the morning, because in the middle of our day, we do real estate stuff. And getting out early in the morning, it's like you're just getting it done. So we usually take the pictures early in the morning. Usually it's him. And, he uses a system on his phone to take the pictures. And as he's doing them, it's either myself or my data entry person keying them in. And she only keys in what I send her, though. I always pull my own comps. I do all my own pricing. So she's really just looking at what I send her and filling in the forms. And that's basically what we do. And we just do that process every day in between selling real estate. Okay. And that really, it's really not hard or complicated. It's just we have a system.
Well, so let's get more into your system. A part of the thing that takes a lot of people to get a long time to get ramped up in this is that they have to do everything the first time, right? I mean, the first time you sign up with a BPO company, it takes time. The first time you do a BPO, it takes time. The first time, but your system, because you've scaled it out, you are able to have almost like your own little encyclopedia. I don't know really what you want to call it, but your own database of information that with slight modifications you can cut and paste into your BPOs. Can you describe to the listeners exactly how that works and maybe give it a better description of what I just struggled to do?
Well, I have a Word document that I've just accumulated as I have been doing these. And you'll see with different companies that there's different things that they want on them. And you start noticing that you're saying the same thing over and over again. So instead of retyping everything, I came up with, little paragraphs for certain kinds of neighborhoods. Like if they are a newer conforming neighborhood, I have a paragraph to describe that. And it's about 2 pages I have describing the subject property or describing the neighborhood, and I just literally copy and paste into the forms. And sometimes I just add a little bit to it if there's something specific that I need to say. And that's what my data entry person does also. Most of it is just copying and pasting from the document into the form.
Okay, so the important thing is that you did the original writing for these descriptions once.
Right.
You saved them and you just replicate them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So how often do you actually have to? I mean, how often can you not pull from your document? How often do you actually have to write something original for a BPO? Does that even happen that often anymore?
Well, if I have, I cover a rural area too, and sometimes there's, it's just something kind of crazy that I have to describe, and I might just save that BPO for myself. But I would say 90% of the time I can use the Word document. And just about 10% if it's something unusual, then then I have to do it as something original.
So a lot of people always ask us, I know they ask you as well, Kim, about the auto-accept software. Let's talk about auto-accept software, then do you use it?
No. I'll tell you, there's a couple different reasons I don't use it. I don't really even know that much about it. I've read about it on blogs, and a couple things. First, there are a couple companies that will fire you if you're using that. So I would tell people to be very careful. Apparently, it's very transparent to them when people are using it because of how often it checks the websites. And also, you're not knowing what you're accepting. And that's one of the reasons the companies don't like it, because you're more likely to decline something or cancel something if it's just accepting everything in a zip code. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. I mean, we had an email from a student the other day who was doing lots of BPOs for a specific company. Maybe Julie can chime on and tell us what company it was. I don't remember. And the email basically was, oh, my God, I just lost this really primo relationship with this great BPO company because I used auto-accept software. They didn't necessarily – I mean, evidently in their I agree there was something along the lines of never use auto-accept software or we're going to fire you. But they didn't read it. They didn't remember it, whatever. Used the software. And not only were they fired, Kim, but they were banned from ever doing BPOs for that company again. And this was a BPO company that this person was doing well with. So just totally reinforcing what you're saying, we don't suggest any auto-accept software, and there's a whole host of reasons why. I like what you just said. It's because basically you're accepting things that you maybe shouldn't be accepting in the first place. Right. And now we found that obviously these companies not only don't want you to use it, but if they find out that you're using it, you're going to be, banned for life, as it were. So that's a really good point. Right. So how do you accept your Julie just told me it was eMortgage, by the way, that did that. So how do you accept BPOs? Tell us, when you're getting started, so there's someone that's getting started today, and they're wanting to go up to the point where they can at least cover their personal daily, weekly, monthly overhead. How do you go about accepting BPOs now if you are new? Because I know now you get mostly direct assignments, but if you can jump in your Wayback Machine and kind of go back a couple of years, how are you physically accepting them, or digitally accepting them, rather?
Well, basically, off my phone. They send the companies that send blast emails out. You have to be quick, and you need to have a smartphone, and you have to have push email on it. And sometimes it's first come, first serve. That's why it's so important to make sure that you work to become a preferred vendor, because that's a lot of work. And I don't have to do any of that. The assignments just come to me. So when you're starting out, yes, you do probably have to do that, but your goal should always be to become a preferred vendor.
Well, so you said two things there, and I want to make sure everyone's paying attention. First of all, she said something technical, which was very important. She said make sure your smartphone has what's called push technology with the emails, and I believe there's only two providers that do. Kim, what kind of smartphone do you use?
I have an iPhone.
Okay, so what happens is, don't worry about the technical aspects of what push means, guys. All it means is basically, just to summarize it, is that the email shows up on your smartphone at the same time it would have otherwise on your desktop. So it's getting pushed to your smartphone versus the typical technology that works with smartphones is it goes in there at scheduled times to retrieve. Okay, so that's the big difference. So Kim is out in the field doing another BPO or working with a buyer or seller, and a BPO request comes in, she can accept it from her smartphone as if she was sitting in front of her desk. So when you're getting started, that's really the only way to go, again, assuming you're not going to use the auto-accept software. Now, she said something else that I hope all of you are paying attention to, and this is really, I think, the key to blissful BPO happiness is getting direct assignment BPOs. So let's tell them what a direct assignment BPO is, Kim, and then let's tell them how they can go about getting direct assignment BPOs themselves.
Basically, it just means that you're a preferred vendor in your area, and they send you the assignments directly. You can either accept or decline them. It's depending on the company. If you decline it, then they'll send it to their other direct vendor or preferred vendor, or they may do a blast email if their preferred vendor declines it.
So let's stop right there. So that's the food chain of how it typically works. Preferred vendors have first rights of refusal, in essence, of BPO requests, and after the preferred vendor or vendors refuse them, then they're thrown out to the masses, and then you guys have to fight for them, via round-robin approach to doing BPOs. So you can see why you'd want to be a preferred vendor, because not only do you get the assignments sent directly to you, but you also don't have to compete for them anymore. Sorry, Kim.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then how to become one, depending on the company, sometimes you have to do a certain amount before you can become a preferred vendor. I'll tell you, for most of my companies that I think I am for all the companies I work with, I called and asked, this is what I want to do. We're salespeople, so some of it was selling myself to them. And, I still do that to this day. I was on the phone with one of my schedulers this morning, and for 15 minutes I took to talk to him, got some good scoop from him, and got him to up my limit on how many orders I get. I was like, you know what, I think I want more. Can you change it in the computer for me? And he did. Sometimes
okay,
it's just
so
asking.
there's a couple more things there. Again, good stuff, Kim. Really appreciate it. So the preferred vendor aspect, what you did to be a preferred vendor is you called up the BPO company and what would you typically say? Give us like a script of what you'd typically say. I know it's not complicated.
I might say, hi, I'm, Kim Minehart from Florida, exit, and I've done, some orders for you recently, and I would love to become a preferred vendor. What do I need to do that? I'm ready to take that on right now, and I'll tell you, most of the time, it was just as easy as that. And they'll usually look me up. I'm sure they're looking to see what my rating is, because they, obviously.
Okay, so rating within their own company, right?
Correct.
You're rated when you're doing BPOs, and they're making sure that you've got a good rating.
Right.
That makes sense. Go ahead.
And then typically it's as easy as that. And really, that's all there is. That's all there has been to it. Now, I have been doing this for a while, so it is a little bit more competitive now. But typically, it's that they're always looking for good people because there's so many people that aren't.
Right. There's a nice aspect to all of this, which I don't think a lot of people are considering. You're essentially a service provider to the banks. In essence, that's what you're doing, and you get paid on your BPOs, whether the house closes or not. Your career in real estate is no longer tied to a buyer or a seller. That mentally, that's kind of a weird shift, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's really a good feeling. You always know that there's money coming in. And it gives you a sense of calm when you're working with your clients.
Interesting.
So I think I could be a better salesperson that way. I am a better salesperson that way.
Well, so describe that. What is that sense of how long when you started doing BPOs, first of all, what was it more work than you thought it was going to be? Was it hard work? A lot of agents, it's interesting. I hear them call into the office and they'll tell us about their financial woes, or they'll tell us that they're trying to save up for some, kids going back to school clothes, or just whatever their situation is. And we always tell them the same thing. We always say, well, you need to be doing BPOs every day. Think of them as your daily vitamins. That's one of the very basic tenets of being a realtor in this marketplace is doing BPOs. Benefits are you get to know the market better. You might get HREUs as a result. You're going to run into sellers possibly that can send you other types of business. Oh, and by the way, you get paid along the way, right? And so It's interesting to hear them. A lot of them, their first reaction, Kim, is, oh, my God, it's so much work. How am I going to have time to do a BPO, blah, 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 blah. So how long from the time it shows up in your email box, okay, so you're getting direct assignments, just basing it on one BPO. I know you batch your work, but just for the sake of explaining the process, from soup to nuts, how long is it taking you? How much time are you personally investing in the BPO? And explain to us how and where other people might touch the BPO in terms of your husband.
As far as keying one in, is that what you mean? That the time it takes to key one in?
So you have now that you're doing this many, you have an assembly line of sorts, correct? Okay.
Exactly.
So describe your assembly line and how long it takes for your business to do the BPO from beginning to end, time-wise.
It's hard to say driving-wise because, again, those are all, batched together. In regards to the keying in process, depending on which company's form it is, some of them are, a little longer and some of them are a little shorter. I would say from the time I get it in to entering it, submitting it, 20 to 30 minutes, and that's not including the drive time.
Okay, so 20 to 30 minutes. How long did it take you to get to the point where you could do a BPO in 20 to 30 minutes? Because that's where most realtors are rolling their eyes, like, oh, my God, how could you do it in 20
minutes? I hear it all the time.
I know.
I mean, and just to tell you, Tim, is like I just trained a part-time assistant to do that, and she's doing them in 30 minutes. So it's certainly possible. Yeah.
By the way, guys, let me just throw out a pitch for your class, Kim. On a quick side note, just recently Kim has agreed to be the coach of a BPO class that we're doing, and it's only for those of you who are already enrolled in the current Harris Real Estate University class. So this can only be an add-on class, and this is for those of you who want to specifically focus on just doing BPOs. That's the only topic of the class. She's going to get into obviously she knows what she's doing, and she's going to get into all the specific details of how she's doing it and doing it in volume. If you're interested in that class, you have to call Rochelle at 866-422-9497, 866-422-9497, and this BPO class is only open to Harris Real Estate University students. So if you're interested in that, give Rochelle a quick call. So I forget what my question was, Kim. I think it was a really good one, too. You remember?
Oh, gosh, no, I forgot, too. We were talking about time, how long it takes.
Right, well, exactly. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Not that long. I would say once I got a system down pat, maybe a few months.
Right.
To learn how to do them that quickly? Yeah.
When you hear people bellyaching about how much time it takes, what's the typical reasons why realtors think it takes too much time, aside from maybe they don't know how to type?
Well, I've watched people do them before, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what are they doing? They don't have a good system. I see people do them, and they're printing all these thousands of pages, and I don't, that is not necessary. Probably the typing part might be a little bit of an issue. Again, if they copy and paste, it shouldn't really be that big of a deal. I really don't know why else, to be honest with you. I really don't.
Okay, well,
they don't read their instructions well.
That is a big one, actually, They don't read instructions. Well, so just on a quick side note, some of you who've done BPOs in the past and not gotten paid on them, Kim, have you ever had that happen?
I have a little rule of thumb with new companies because there's always new companies coming out. I will only do one and see if it pays.
Okay,
so
well,
that
what
happens to me once.
Yeah, you're answering the question. You're actually answering it better than I asked it. So the essence of it is that when you get asked to do a BPO by a new BPO company, you'll do one for them and make sure that they follow through and pay you. But have you ever had one stiff you before?
I have, and if you ask me the company, I can't remember. It was quite a while ago. and I couldn't even get these people on the phone. And it was, for me, it was one order, so I was like, okay, well, I just obviously am not going to work for them anymore. I moved on. I wrote it off and moved on. But otherwise, that was it. I typically try to find out if I'm working with a new company, what is your time frame for paying, so I don't have to be calling or asking. And I always like to know that up front. And it varies from company to company.
All right. So, and you're the one that thought this up, so I love it. So do you ever pay, everyone listening, please listen exactly how she's going to, you know what I'm going to ask you. Do you ever pay to do BPOs?
No, I don't pay to work. Mm-mm.
Yeah, okay, well, she just said that really quick, but it's so important. Everyone should write that down, tattoo that on your arm before you email us and ask us if you should sign up for this or that company and they're charging this or that fee. The answer is no, you don't pay to work. Now, there are, I think, 2 exceptions now of legit BPO companies where you do have to pay their whatever fee, their training fee, their what have you. It's Old Republic, and what's the other one? Or maybe it's just Old Republic.
I think it's Dispo Solutions, maybe.
Right.
Julie,
so do you do BPOs for those 2 companies?
Well, Old Republic, I believe you can do BPOs without paying. I think to get on the REO side, you have to pay, I believe, because I get orders sent to me all the time from them. Dispo, I haven't done anything for Dispo in a really long time. Not sure why. They just never seem to do a lot of volume in the area, and I like to focus on the companies that do a lot of the volume. So nothing recently, no.
So what if you were doing BPOs for a specific company, like you just brought up an interesting topic, and all of a sudden you're not getting requests from them anymore? You're not getting any BPO orders from them anymore. Why does that happen?
Well, and it happens a lot. It just depends. They may not have any. I am always on the phone with people or emailing or communicating with my schedulers, and, they may just be slow in my state. But I've never had anybody like totally not send me any more. But sometimes it becomes a geographic issue where maybe they're getting orders in California this month heavily, and then, maybe the Midwest. I don't know. That's how it seems to work. Not sure why that works that way, but that's why I'm signed up with so many companies. So I always have a steady stream. I don't have to worry about that.
Well, so that's an important point. I mean, but the way to offset that, the normal and natural fluctuations in the BPO into things, because like Kim just said, some of these companies are going to have BPOs in your market today, but not tomorrow. Some of them might go out of business. That's certainly happened a lot in the last 5 years. But there's another thing that can happen is your scoring could drop, which Kim and I are going to talk about here in a second. But there's a couple things that she said I really want you to pay attention to, okay? Make sure you're pulling these things out of this interview. Number one, she isn't just working with 1 or 2 BPO companies. How many BPO company relationships do you have? Maybe 30. And on it, but not all of them are sending you BPO requests, but you have, in essence, on your BPO wheel, you have 30 different spokes, basically, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now I heard you say something else.
Some of them just don't have that many orders. It's not, so it depends. Mm-hmm. When
you sign up with a company, this is the other thing we hear a lot. I went to the website, I signed up, and they didn't send me anything, right? So you're going to their website signing up because you have to. You basically have to let them know who you are, and they have to have that information on record. So when they send you a BPO, they can actually legally pay you. But you're then following up with phone calls, and even after you have a preferred relationship with these guys, you're still prospecting them. In essence, that's what you're doing. Can you describe to the listeners and your future students, Kim, what you're doing when you call them? Give them some great detail on the importance of actually calling.
Well, it's funny because my schedulers are like my friends. That's how, I might call, Mimi and say, hey, when are you coming to Florida? What do orders look like today? And she'll say, oh, we're getting our batch on Friday. I'm like, well, don't forget about me. I'll touch base with you on Friday. And she's like, oh, we won't, Kim. That's how a conversation goes with us. I throw a little personal in, because I'm a salesperson, and then I ask her when we're getting the orders. So,
Do you ever, I mean, when you're contacting the schedulers, because that's what they're called inside these BPO companies, do you hear often that other agents are actually calling and trying to build that level of relationship with them? How many other agents are actually doing that? Does Mimi complain that she's got 16 gazillion other realtors trying to chat her up every day?
I more hear the complaints about the things the realtors do wrong. I mean, I could tell you a little story I heard from one of my schedulers last week if you want me to tell it.
Please. I bet you it's funny.
It was actually, I couldn't believe it. She was telling me that they had an order that they were paying this man $100. It was kind of in a rural location, which $100 is good for an exterior. And there was a couple revisions that needed to be done on the order. So she called him, and she is one of the nicest people I have ever spoke to, and, told him about the revisions. The agent said to her, I'm not doing them, just decline the order. Just that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And she goes, no, and it was like not a big deal. And I'm like, and she goes, and we were paying him good too. He just wouldn't do it.
Wow. So Julie just IM'd me something. She said your schedulers are your centers of influence because you talk to them so frequently. The point of this, guys, is listen to what Kim's doing. She's treating this as a business, not just a side business, right? She's forming relationships with these folks at the BPO companies, and a lot of times these same schedulers are going to be the people that put her in contact on the REO side of things, and she can take REO listings. It's really important that all of you understand that the secret sauce to what Kim is doing is not only does she have a system that's easily replicatable and scalable, meaning she can add more BPOs to her pipeline because she's already got a system in place, but she's always also working the human side. She's working within the BPO companies. She's formed relationships, and she gets direct assignments. So Julie's asking me to ask you specifically, like when you tell us about scoring, because scoring is something that a lot of agents aren't aware of. Pick up wherever you'd like to. I mean, describe to them how important the score is. Describe to them how they can find out what their score is and what they can do maybe if their score isn't where it's supposed to be.
Well, depending on the company, sometimes it's on the website and you can look at it. I will tell you the number one thing that will kill you in the business is being late. You cannot be late. You should always have it in your mind to be early if possible. That's probably the worst thing you can do is to be late with an order. And then obviously you get scored on how well you pull comps, the descriptions you put in your report. They look at how well you price something. So basically the content of the report, when you get the report in, and then if they have a issue or question, how quickly you respond back to them.
That's important. I know that's a lot. Again, it's interesting, Kim, as you're describing, as you're going through all these really important understandings of how you get scored. I'm going back to how the average realtor thinks of BPOs. They think of them as basically an annoyance, a hassle, something they'll do if they have any free time. And you're taking advantage of that level of apathy, and you're saying, I'm going to treat this as professional as I can, as a business. And as a result of that, you've built a business around BPOs, and that her business, I'm going to say this again, really important that all of you understand this, her business is not tied to buyers and sellers. Her business isn't tied to what the president is or isn't doing with housing. Her business isn't tied to the number of foreclosures. It really isn't. Her business isn't tied to any of the normal things that a realtor who's solely dependent on buyers and sellers and homes getting listed and short sales getting accepted, her income is solely tied to one thing and one thing only, her ability to do BPOs, which in essence are an elaborate CMA. That is a peace of mind and a level of comfort and security that, Kim, you probably have been doing BPOs long enough now that you almost take it for granted. I'm going to venture a guess. I do, but not really. Not really. With the changes, and, there's always so many changes, and the companies are getting pretty strict, to be honest with you. They're fighting for the few amount of lenders that are out there right now. And so, it has changed quite a bit in the last 4 years. I don't take anything for granted, to be honest with you. I just don't. I see too many tears when I'm sitting with my short sale clients to take anything for granted. So Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a really good point. So, with all the fluctuations in the real estate markets, with all the different things happening in these different BPO companies, can any realtor do BPOs? Are there any types of agents that you would think, if we're just being completely honest, are not cut out for BPOs?
Probably. I mean, I think anybody could do them. I think that you should want to do them. If you don't want to do it and you're not going to do a good job, and realize that the people that you're doing this for are doing their job, then you might as well not do it, because it's really not fair to them. I mean, that's how I see it. It should be treated seriously. And that's how we treat it. We understand that our schedulers, they have a job to do, we have a job to do, and there's a mutual respect.
Simple enough. So listen, all of you who are listening, there's a lot of questions that are in queue right now. I'm going to start asking some of your questions now. If you've got any specific questions for Kim, anything I didn't ask, I want you to go ahead and enter those into the webinar. And again, the focus here is how to essentially make more than enough money to cover all of your personal and business and all your extra stuff overhead doing BPOs. Now, Kim, again, you're still working with buyers and sellers, and you work in the Orlando, Florida area. And I didn't ask this at the top of the call. I apologize. I wanted to make it so that they would listen in to get your information. So if they want to get hold of you to send you a buyer or seller referral, how can they do it?
They can email me at kimsellsflorida@yahoo.com, or
simple enough.
Call me. It's fine. I
okay, Kim sells Florida at yahoo.com, and your phone number is
407-920-4510.
Okay, so those are the two ways you can get a hold of her. Now, you do not want agents contacting you about how to do BPOs, correct?
Well, not really. They can join the class.
Okay,
good. We'll talk about it on the class.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for, because there's lots of people listening today. All right, so in the class, again, this is open only for Harris Real Estate University students. Kim is going to be the coach. It's something we're doing specifically for Harris Real Estate University students. It's called BPO Cash Flow. If you're interested in the class, call 866-422-9497. All right, so I'm going to get to some of these questions. Actually, there's a lot of good detailed questions, which I appreciate. All right, so let me pull these up. Is Kim doing, this is Rita from Atlanta. Hello, Rita. Is Kim doing any, a lot of questions just came in. Commercial BPOs, going back to Kim's question.
I do not do commercial. I don't do anything I don't sell.
All right, good. Mike from Sacramento, how much is the BPO class and where does it start? I'm not sure when it starts. Maybe Julie will tell me, but I know it's, Julie, what is the price and when does it start? Just get on the line.
Sorry, I was muted. It starts actually next week. Kim has been kind enough to agree to launch it next week. And if you are already a Harris Real Estate University student, either in short sale or REO or one of our other classes, it's $47 per month. And remember, this is exclusively about BPO cash flow, doing BPOs in volume, just like Kim's been talking about.
This is kind of a nice tie-in. Bill from I can't pronounce it. Just had to interrupt this webinar due to an email I received on my BlackBerry from one of your top-named BPO companies. When I called him back, he actually answered, told me that we need him, and gave me his direct email address. I told him I was listening to a webinar, and he was glad to hear it. Great to start my day. Can't wait for the advanced class to start next week. So that was nicely timed in with our little soft sales pitch.
Can I say something to Bill?
Please, yes.
Make sure you have a file for those email addresses. For anybody from any of those companies that send you emails, keep their email addresses.
All right, good. Okay, here's a great question. Craig from Encino, with 2,500 annual BPOs, are those leading to relationships for REOs? Let me change this question slightly. Are you looking for REOs? Because, Craig, your assumption with your question is that she is.
Right.
And are you looking for REOs, and have they formed any REO relationships?
I have formed REO relationships. I have to be honest, I do tend to enjoy the short sale side a little bit more, which I know some people think is strange. I like the human contact that I get with my sellers. But I have and continue to list some REOs, but a higher percentage of my business is in short sales.
Perfect. Nathan from San Jose, declining a $100 exterior BPO with a few simple revisions is absolutely insane. So Nathan agrees with you. Okay, I asked you about the commercial BPOs. All right, so Tom from Baltimore says your score is also deducted for declining orders. Do you know what he's talking about, Kim?
Yeah, it probably depends on the company.
Right.
It depends.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me because I have a hard time declining anything. So
I know, Kim, you told me that when you're like on the way to the bathroom in the middle of the night, you accept orders on your cell phone.
Yeah, I've done that before.
So I love your attitude about that. You know?
I had actually a funny, on a side note, I had an interesting email chain that one of my graduate students included me in on, where they were talking about, these agents were talking about their ideal clients. I just thought that was kind of funny. And this is from just the normal, like, REO side of things. And I thought to myself, in this economy, in this market, your ideal client is someone who pays. That's your ideal client. You know?
Right.
It's not anything more complicated than that. And to try to paint this nice rosy picture of how your ideal client's going to be making you porridge every morning and hot coffee, I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. Sandra from, don't know, said single source just added a class and said it was required. Kim, can you offer any, do you work for single source? Do you know anything about this class?
No, I don't. Sorry.
You don't work for single source?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to throw something out there, and Kim said it as well. A lot of times the very basic relationship where you're going to do BPOs for these guys do not require any sort of class or fee, right? And I'm going to, Julie, do you know about Old Republic? I actually think Kim is right about that they don't require a fee to do BPOs, but if you want to get on there.
That's right.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
you know, keep in mind, too, sometimes these companies have their, quote, required training because they're training you on their system. They're training you on their forms, and it's good for you because it'll make you more efficient. So don't just shoot it down just because it's this extra hour of training or whatever. It's probably going to benefit you. But always do your research. You know,
well,
is it required? Probably not. But once you get in, if you want more, maybe you have to, you know, get a little more efficient.
Well, the reality of it, too, is there's literally dozens of these guys that don't require any kind of fee that you can start doing BPOs and getting paid for.
And that's what we're teaching in the class, by the way.
And so we have a list of, you know, I didn't ask this question, Kim. Who are your top BPO companies?
Let's see. Mark to Market, I've been working for the longest. And Valuation Support Services, definitely my top one. I'm going to talk about them next week on the call. Let's see, Goodman Dean, LSI, ServiceLink, and PowerLink. Those are probably my top ones.
Okay, good. So, again, we have a list as part of this class, and also it's the same list as we used for the REO Secrets class of all of our top BPO companies. And what we do, just so everyone knows, is that if we ever get any negative feedback, I honestly can't remember the last time this happened, but that any of the BPO companies on our list aren't paying or even slow paying or any kind of just mixed information, we tell you guys. And if we find out that 2 or 3 agents are telling us the same thing, they get booted off our BPO list. So we've got a really, really nicely refined, sign up with these guys first. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to know, frankly, which BPO companies are going to send you assignments the fastest, which BPO companies are going to require you jump through the fewest number of hoops. And in some cases, signing up for these guys, there are a few tricks to make it so that you can jump to the head of the line. Those are the types of things you're going to learn in this class. And also, a lot of this stuff is covered in the REO class. The BPO class, the BPO cash flows, for those of you who've decided that you're going to make BPOs really a main priority in your business, and you want to learn how to do BPOs in volume like Kim does. So remember, Kim said it takes her an average of 20 to 30 minutes to do a BPO, and you can do the same thing. Actually, Marcia Moody put a funny comment in. Let me find it again. And in essence, she says it takes her 2 to 3 days. Oh, here it is. I'm signing up for your class. It takes me 2 to 3 days to do a BPO. I really need help.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but you know what? That's not unusual, though. I mean, honestly, that's not unusual when you're getting started. You just have to. All right, so Dawn from Denver asks if you have the NABOB, N-A-B-P-O-P certification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have it, but
Okay.
that is probably the one besides you guys that would be recommended. I've never done it. I got to be honest with you. I have never paid for anything. I just haven't. I haven't paid for any extra classes, any extra certifications, nothing. And I haven't had to. So, and I have had very, very steady business.
So Nathan from San Jose, using Kim's system of copying and paste method, I'm able to do more BPOs in a fifth of the time. I've completed more than 500 BPOs this year so far. Nathan from San Jose, thank you, Kim. That's pretty good.
Oh, good for you. Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Tim, one thing that you guys hadn't touched on, I think, is there's some hidden benefit to this. I had a free coaching call with an agent yesterday, and she said, she's from the REO class where we also teach about, some BPO stuff. And she said, it wasn't until I had done about 40 BPOs that I actually became confident pricing anything else. She said, I was never confident in my, you go on a regular listing appointment. It wasn't until she started cranking the BPOs that she grew that confidence to be able to say, yeah, that's the right price. And I thought that was an interesting comment, kind of getting paid to learn.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, Deborah from Los Alamitos, there's 3 new questions that came in that I definitely want to ask before we wrap the call up. I'm trying to get evaluation solutions to pay me for 10 BPOs I did in January. No phone to accounting, just relay emails without response. Are they on the don't list? In other words, are they on our bad BPO company list? I don't know, Julie. Kim, can you help me out there?
They're one of those, I don't work for them because of that. They will pay you. You just have to. Do you have I would ask if you have the email from the scheduler. You just have to stay on them. I don't work for companies like that. I don't have time to be hounding people to get paid. So you're just going to have to stay on them. They will pay you, but you have to stay on them.
So one of the things that you said, and you said this to the other person asking a question as well, is when you get emails, when you get BPO requests, save the emails, save the from the scheduler, and that's how you start your relationship, correct?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to also jump in here and say, for those of you who have had these experiences where you didn't get paid quickly and you had to hound that company, please don't jump to the conclusion that all BPO companies are like that. I mean, how could Kim be making what she's making if that's how all the companies were? So be careful what you believe. Sometimes we have these experiences, and we say, oh, well, I'm not going to do BPOs because of that. It's the company you're working for. Change companies. There's tons of companies out there that don't have that hassle factor.
That's right. All right, so more good questions are coming in. Go ahead and enter your questions in, guys. I really appreciate the interest in this. Single source is good because they have REOs also. Yes, that's definitely true. Okay, here's Jude Morris from Kansas. Who do you use for your errors and emissions insurance? I'd be surprised if you knew. How much do you pay for your E&O, and can you use your E&O insurance for your regular real estate sales?
I don't pay for my E&O. My broker does, and he uses Pearl.
Pearl, okay. And it's the same E&O insurance company that covers you for all aspects of your real estate transactions, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. All right. So hopefully that answers all of your questions. Any other questions, guys? Key them in now. I'm going to start wrapping up the call. So someone else saying the same problem with evaluation solutions. And guys, they're not on our list for a reason. So I'm assuming that Craig and all the rest of you who are asking about evaluation solutions are asking because A, you're not a student, which shame on you, or B, you're a student and you didn't actually read the material that's on the website as far as what companies work for and which don't, which is shame on you again. So listen, the bottom line here is, guys, is we've already kind of walked this path for you. Just follow our directions. Follow Kim's instructions. It'll make your lives a lot easier. Okay, here's a good basic question. June from Punta Gorda. You know what? June's actually making me think of a different question we didn't ask. But she says, how do you keep records of the jobs she has and the costs, et cetera? So Excel, Word, I mean, how do you go about, you don't use any BPO software for accepting. How do you manage, I'm going to expand June's question, how do you manage all your BPO business? Do you have software that you use? Describe to them what you're doing.
I have a spreadsheet that I use. It's pretty simple and basic. I fill in by day the company and the address and what they're paying. I have little boxes next to it. It's really basic. I'll post it for the class when I start it, but there's nothing fancy about it. I have a little box when I get paid. I date when I get paid. I have a column for photographers if somebody took a picture for me for each address. It's really basic. I have it by month. I log my months so I always have a cumulative total to see how my year is going. It's just really basic stuff. I'm not a real tech-savvy person, so there's probably something more fancy you can use, but I have this notebook spreadsheet sitting next to my desk and next to my laptop all day. So just
well,
open.
so the interesting part of this is that you're not subscribing to some expensive BPO company, software management, what have you. You basically, and everyone who's listening, this is the same spreadsheet you're going to get as part of this new class, and you also get as part of their REO class as well. Remember, this BPO cash flow course is only an add-on for existing Harris Real Estate University students. But you're not. I guess what, Julie said something to me. She said, Kim is very cheap, and cheap is good, right? Yeah.
I know, I am, really.
I say that with love.
Yeah, she does.
But you know what I love? The thing about Kim is, Kim, you're so no-nonsense. You don't pay to work. You don't just go sign up with all these companies and just hope for the best. You're very practical. You don't subscribe to all this autofill software. You don't have all these fancy systems, and that makes you perfect to coach that class. Because I know as an agent how annoying it is to sign up for something and then find out like the rest of the story. Now you got to spend all this other money, right? And you don't believe in that, and you are a great example of someone who hasn't done all that extra gobbledygook, and you've had great success without all of that expenditure. I think your net is pretty healthy.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So actually, that's kind of a funny question, Julie. So your fixed costs from doing those 2,503 or 2 BPOs that you did, right? So your fixed expenses from that over $100,000 you made in income, what are your costs? I mean, are you paying, the typical real estate expenses from signs and color brochures and realtor lunches and realtor tours and virtual tours and all the other crapola that's associated with real estate? Do you have any fixed costs?
Not much, really. I have my data entry person that I'm, pay. I'm even, I hate to say it, but, cheap on how I do that. And I am. I don't think it takes really a lot for somebody to look at something and type it into a form. So I paid what I thought it was worth. And that's it. And I'm always looking at how I can downsize even what I have. I mean, we've become almost that we're not hardly ever using a camera anymore.
How do you do that? Explain that. I
mean, we use our iPhone for 90% of our orders.
And then you're able to import. Well, I'm not going to get into the details for the sake of time.
Yeah, I mean, there's some details involved in this, but
right.
We're always looking at how we can streamline. For me, I'm always thinking, what can take off 5 minutes from this? What can I do to make this quicker and obviously and still do a good job? So I'm always thinking like that.
Well, because guys, just something real self-evident, just to point this out, Kim, otherwise I'm going to get a ton of questions. I mean, if you use a digital camera, then you have to download those pictures into your computer, upload those pictures to your, whatever platform, the software the BPO company is asking you to use. And that takes a lot of extra time, and guess what? It doesn't necessarily always work, because then you got to size your pictures and all this rest of it. And what she's doing is that by using your smartphone or your iPhone, then you can just email those pictures right in, and it makes the whole system work 100 times faster. These are all the little reasons why Kim can do this many BPOs in a day. These are all the reasons why there's a new breed of realtors. I'd say Kim is one of the originators of this. There's a new breed of realtors that are forming just to service the banks. The fact is the majority of the transactions that are happening out there in many of your markets are the so-called distressed properties. I say so-called because I'm not so sure the owners of those properties are all that distressed compared to the people that are trying to sell right now, competing against the so-called distressed properties. But that's a different kind of monologue. Point is that you can make an absolute fortune, or at least a really great income now in real estate, by accepting the fact that for the foreseeable future we're all essentially extended employees of the servicers, of the banks. Be okay with that. Learn to work in their systems, and you can make a ton of money. Most other realtors, mentally and emotionally, fight that. They have problems with that. They are married to this old system of, okay, I can only make money buying and selling real estate. Well, okay, that's nice. That's great. I can only make money by picking up the phone and prospecting FSBOs and expires. Well, why? Right? Why? How much better would you feel? And, it's kind of interesting talking with Kim. I've talked to her before. She's part of the group that I have when we do the REO Secrets class. And one of the things I take away from talking with Kim, and I think all of you guys can get this vibe as well, she's calm. She's calm. And she's got, Kim, you've got a husband that works with you. You've got, three kids, right?
Two kids. Well, my dog, but 2 kids and a dog.
Yeah, 2 kids and a dog, right? And you've got all the normal financial what have yous that normal realtors have, but you're calm. You've got it together. You're not worried about your income. You're not worried about all the things that realtors have just come to accept as being normal as part of the real estate industry. You've decided to mentally, you've made the decision that you don't want to live like that, and you're going to take action so you don't have to. And that's what I want everyone else to really take away from Kim. You can do the same thing. Again, you don't have to build this big machine. Kim, when you started, did you have the intention of building, a business to the point where you're doing over, 2,500 BPOs a year? Was that your original goal?
It never occurred to me. Never. I mean, it just, I just didn't think you could. It just didn't occur to me. I mean, I never heard of a BPO before, so no. Mm-mm.
Good. So a lot of you guys are asking specific questions about her process and all that, and it's been an hour, so we don't have time to get to those things. If you're interested in Kim's, first of all, you have to be a Harris Real Estate University student. There's going to be no exceptions to that. And if you're interested in joining Kim's BPO cash flow class, I want you to call 866-422-9497. That's the only way you're going to be able to sign up with this class. Again, there's no button on the website or anything like that. This is something we're doing special for Harris Real Estate University students. And by the way, the price is discounted. And the REO, let's see, Kim, Rochelle told me, as she's IMing me, she's saying that Kim's class, well, Kim, you'd know, when is your class? Tuesday at 9 a.m., correct?
Oh, yeah, noon my time, midnight I'm saying. Noon my time, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Noon East Coast, 9 a.m. Pacific. So you do not have to attend the class live. Like all Harris Real Estate University classes, our classes are recorded so you can go back and listen to them at any time you want. Go ahead, Julie.
Well, but we chose that particular time because that's right after the REO class, because a lot of our REO students are going to be adding this on. So that way they don't have to overschedule themselves.
Right. So there's no conflict in terms of time with any of our other classes. Only for Harris Real Estate University students, call 866-422-9497. So, Kim, I'll let you kind of summarize this call. Again, I really appreciate you being our superstar today. I really appreciate the nice, calm energy that, I don't know if you hear that from anybody else, but you really do have a nice, calm confidence about you.
Oh, thank you.
Trying to instill that same sort of confidence in other people, trying to sort of motivate other agents to understand that they can have that same peace of mind. Is there anything?
Well, Tim, it does have to do with consistent income, I think.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to all the realtors out there that are listening now and in replay?
No, just if you want to do this, know you can do it. But take it serious, be a professional, and do a good job. And trust me, there's plenty of business out there, so the business will come to you. And that's really it. Join my class.
That's it. Join our class. Nothing more to say than that. So, listen, this call, as well as all Harris Real Estate University Superstar interviews, are available for you to listen to and replay. Just go to realestateinsidernews.com, and at the top you'll see the little Superstar Interviews button. Click the button, listen to the interviews at any time. And again, if you're an existing Harris Real Estate University student and you'd like to join Kim Minehart's BPO Cash Flow class, I can think of no one better to coach that program. Just go call 866-422-9497. Ask for Rochelle. She'll get you enrolled. And again, just for Harris Real Estate University students. So, Kim, I really appreciate you being this week's superstar. And for all of those of you who are on the fence trying to think whether or not this is for you, call Rochelle. Ask her what's included, what's not. Find out if it's a match for what you're trying to accomplish in your business and personal life. And for everyone else, I want you to have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for joining us for today's Superstar interview.